All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle one of the most essential tools in all of science, the research hypothesis. Think of it as the architect's blueprint for an investigation. It's what gives everything structure and turns a simple question into a real, testable path toward finding an answer.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about why a hypothesis is way more than just a guess. Then, we'll get into its real purpose and break down its anatomy. After that, we'll get practical and look at how you actually build one. And finally, we'll cover the most important part, putting it to the test.
Okay, let's jump right in by busting a really common myth.
You hear this all the time, right? Oh, it's just an educated guess. But honestly, that sells the hypothesis way short. Calling it a guess, even an educated one, completely misses the incredible rigor, the theory, and the systematic thinking that goes into crafting a really powerful, testable statement.
The reality is, a well-formed hypothesis is the engine that drives science forward. As the researcher Fred Kerlinger put it, they're literally the most powerful tools we have for getting to knowledge that we can actually trust. They're what turn our raw curiosity into something verifiable.
And you know what's cool is that the word itself gives us a huge clue. Hypothesis comes from Latin roots, hypo meaning under, and thesis meaning position. So it's the position you place under the facts to support them. See, it's not some guess floating in the air. It's a foundation, carefully designed to hold the weight of the whole investigation.
So, what does a hypothesis actually do in the research process? What's its job description?
Well, think of it as your guide. It takes a bunch of puzzling, maybe disconnected facts and offers up a potential explanation. And that simple act does so much. It sparks the search for answers and gives the entire project a laser focus. It tells you which methods to use, what data you need to find, and basically organizes the whole investigation around one central testable idea.
Okay, so if it's a blueprint, how do we actually draw it up? Let's break down the parts, the key ingredients.
Now this is super interesting. A hypothesis isn't just one single sentence. It's more like a whole system of connected questions. This map shows that perfectly. It makes us ask, what's its purpose? How do we build it? What's its relationship to other ideas? It's really a whole network of thinking.
At its very core, a hypothesis is all about a proposed relationship between things. I love the detective analogy. You've got your variables, the suspects, the clues, the motives, and the hypothesis is what tries to connect the dots to see if a real relationship is there.
And usually, that connection comes down to two key players, the independent variable and the dependent variable. Just think of it this way. Independent is the cause, and dependent is the effect. So if your hypothesis is more sunlight makes plants grow taller, the sunlight is your independent variable. It's what you change. And the plant's height, that's the dependent variable. It's what you measure.
All right, so we've got the parts list. How do we actually assemble them into a strong, testable hypothesis? Well, it's basically a three-step journey. You start with a conjecture. That's your initial idea, based on what you already know. Then you move into analysis, where you really think through the logical consequences of that idea. And finally, the most important step, comparison. That's where you check your ideas against cold, hard, real-world data.
And what's cool is that you can get to that hypothesis from two different directions. You can work inductively, that's a bottom-up approach. You see a specific pattern in your observations, and from that you build a broader hypothesis. Or you can go deductively, which is top-down. You start with a big general theory and use it to make a very specific prediction that you can then go out and test.
Okay, now for the most important part, the moment of truth. You've built your beautiful hypothesis. Now you have to put it to the test. This is where your idea meets reality. There's a Spanish word for this, comprobar, and I think it just captures the idea perfectly. It doesn't just mean to prove, it means to test, to check, to contrast. You're literally putting your idea up against the facts of the world to see how it holds up.
So, when all is said and done, it really boils down to two possible outcomes. Either the data confirms your hypothesis, it lines up with your explanation, or it refutes it, showing that your explanation just doesn't fit the evidence.
And this is such a key idea, maybe the most important one. What makes a scientific hypothesis valuable isn't that you can prove it true, it's that you can, at least in theory, prove it false. That quality, called refutability, is what makes a statement genuinely testable. If you can't possibly prove an idea wrong, well, then it isn't really science. And that leads to this huge, vital shift in how we think about this. Finding out your hypothesis was wrong, that is not a failure. It's the opposite.
In science, refuting a hypothesis is a success. You've eliminated one possibility, you've narrowed the field, and you've pointed all future research in a better, more promising direction.
So, when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway here? The goal of a hypothesis isn't just to prove that one person is right. It's to be a tool, a precise, focused, testable tool that helps all of us, together, push the boundaries of what we know and get just a little bit closer to the truth.